welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I be your host, smAsho, aka Dan. I've survived a global pandemic. So far. Have you? I suspect you have, or you wouldn't be watching the video. By the way, we're streaming this live to Twitch. And it's the Daily Space Weather. And we're starting things out looking at the local yellow dwarf here. The Rosetta Stone of cosmology, which we call the sun, or perhaps soul. If you've got messages for the sun, please leave them in the comments. Perhaps we'll send out solar requests tomorrow. We see no sunspots, a bunch of coronal holes rotating just out of the Earth-facing area, and a coronal hole wind stream on the way. A couple active regions, we'll show you them in a minute. First, we'll look at the LASCO C2 from the SOHO spacecraft to show no real coronal mass ejections, at least not from the in-between Earth-Sun area, otherwise known as Lagrange point 1. And here's the view from C3. Excuse me. And my voice has returned to nearly normal status. And by the way, I want to give props to YouTube. Hey, YouTube, if you manually review this video, thanks for manually reviewing and leaving our videos monetized, as it increases the probability that we will leave them on the platform. YouTube's been doing a fine job lately. I understand that they're understaffed as they've got people working from home and so forth. So, for once, shout out to Alphabet Google YouTube for not demonetizing the videos and allowing them to stay on the platform. Also, they have released the monetization update on COVID-19 content. So if you want to read about that, it's available on the YouTube site. If you put up things like distressing footage, people visibly sick, people in distress, shots of hospitals and people coughing, especially for extended periods, medical misinformation, pranks and challenges. So, you know, vet your information if you're going to talk about COVID-19/coronavirus. People think I've been flippant about it and that I'm kidding around about it, and I'm not at all. Also, please follow us on BitChute and look for more exclusives coming there soon. In fact, I'm thinking about doing one right after this video. Also, if you don't follow me on Instagram, you may not see brilliant content like this, where I'm thinking about doing a Willie Nelson cover album, a little EP with a bunch of Willie Nelson songs, sung hardcore in the style of Typo Negative or bands like Sheer Terror. Here's a tidbit.
On the road again! I just have got it back on the road again! Stay the hell out of my way, I'll run you down, my friend!
So anyway, if you don't follow me on Instagram, it's instagram.com/smAsho. And you'll see all sorts of content there, which is exclusive to Instagram. And it does get uploaded to the Facebook page also. Now let's go to Stereo A for a moment, as we're having a bit of a debate here about whether or not we're seeing Mercury on the LASCO C2. So Stereo A is located out here for all you new viewers. And it's looking in this direction. Sugas. You could be right about Mercury there. And here we are looking at Stereo A. So we're looking from Stereo A here, another coronagraph. And I still say it's awfully far off the ecliptic plane, this object right here. And so let's go to the geographic view here. Let me skip forward a couple tabs. The geocentric view, there should be a line in between the Sun and Mercury, and I'm not so sure that's Mercury. So I think it's too big to be Chiron also. I still sort of think it's a comet. And hey, it's not really that important, as it's out there in between Stereo A and the Sun, not between the Earth and the Sun. So anyway, if anybody wants to do further research into that, feel free. I'm not really that concerned about it. Next, we're going to look at the helioviewer.org, and we're going to check out the fields and 171 angstroms. You see this active region up here. Former sunspot 2759 setting. And these active regions down here have not formed into a sunspot, but there's still more activity rising there, so something else to look at. And there you see the fields. And it looks like it's created a spooky, spooky diagonal line across the Sun here. Probably an indication that the Illuminati are controlling the sun via CERN. Pardon my sarcasm. And let's look at the 304 angstroms view also. And we see some filaments. And let's look at some movies. Here's a custom one. Looking at that setting region. Let me vanish. And again, we are streaming live on Twitch, folks. So please subscribe to us at twitch.tv/smAsho if you haven't yet. You'll be able to see the content as it gets made. We do it live on purpose because, well, sometimes the information is super important and timely. So anyway, there's the 304 angstroms view of the former sunspot 2759, which is decayed into a plage, as well as a good view of the North Pole region. And last but not least, we'll look at the rising active regions there in the southeast. And you can see another area just coming up over the limb there. Perhaps that's a sunspot. We'll keep an eye on that. And when I say eye on, the pun is intentional. Next, we'll look at the 94 angstroms view here. This is a full disc 48-hour video, similar to the 193 angstroms view that we showed you at the beginning of the video. And we're having a little bit of trouble loading some pages here. Let's just move on since we're streaming live. KP index is at 1, coming up off the floor, and 10.7 centimeter radial flux is still at 70 solar flux units. And again, there's that geocentric view. This is more useful for looking at objects that we see on the LASCO C2 and C3, but you should see a straight line in between the sun and an object. So now obviously this doesn't show where SDO is. Let's just look at the normal diagrammatic view and advance it here at Planets Today. What have I done here? I'm on the wrong view. I apologize. Let me just back up. There we go. That's the view we normally look at to help give people an idea of where objects are in the solar system. Here's where they'll be in 1 week on the 17th. Approaching another new moon. Which, by the way, I'm a fan of new moons, not full moons. If you want to know why, leave a comment. Perhaps I'll answer. Here's where stuff is above my head. It's 4:10. It's 4:11. Do you know where your constellations are? Where were you when Cygnus rose? Well, it rose months ago. And if you have a low horizon, you'll see Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars all rising in succession. We did see a B-class flare yesterday coming out of that active region, I believe it was. And there you can see that B-class flare on the X-ray flux. Since then, it's been calming down. And again, there is some activity rising in the southeast. No proton events, obviously, but we're keeping that pain on there to get folks ready when we do see proton events. And we are unable to load the Discover Real-Time Solar Wind. This thing has been just sitting here spinning a wheel. So we'll look at the ACE instead. And there's the ACE data. Phi angle is currently around 90 degrees. Solar wind density looks like it's around 4 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed around 350 kilometers a second. And we are expecting a coronal hole wind stream to arrive sometime like tomorrow or perhaps Sunday. So in the next couple of days. Also, we're seeing problems with the Geospace Magnetosphere movies. I just pressed refresh there, and you can see we cannot play the movie. There is no control to press the play button. And it looks like they might be updating it or something. Oh, there we go. They're just in the process of fixing the button or something. So anyway, we got that to play, so cheers for that. Here's 4 hours of data. The magnetohydrodynamic pressure out in the magnetosphere. By the way, if you could see Jupiter's magnetosphere, it would be as large as the full moon, even from this distance. So it's pretty weak there, not surprising as we see a low solar wind, and we're expecting to see that kick up. Let me just hit refresh, and look at that, we can play this one too. Fantastic. And I don't know what the hell happened there. Please bear with me. Here we go. And there are the ground geospace magnetic perturbations. I think it's going to play. There we go. And that's 4 hours of data a little bit closer to home during this geomagnetic polar excursion, while we have 2 North Poles and a South Pole no longer on the Antarctic continent near the geographic pole, but rather in the southern Indian Ocean. Not a lot of magnetic perturbations happening there, and not much of a surprise as we don't see a lot of magnetic activity. But it does kick up right at the end. Check it out. Next, we're going to look at the GOES magnetometer, and it's in a very narrow range here, actually. And that is likely because there is a coronal hole wind stream in between us and the sun. And as our regular viewers may know, plasma has the ability to block magnetic fields, just not be magnetic fields. All right, and let's look at the Gong 2 top view ecliptic plane field plot. This data 1 hour and 57 minutes old, showing us that the current sheet is entirely South Pole charged, shown in red. And we do see some gyrations happening in this area, an indication that that active region may be a sunspot. We're not really going to worry about it, as we need to save content for the next video. Next, we'll look at the line of sight field plot, also Gong 2 data. And you can see not a lot of big changes, no big moves in the B field shown here in blue. That's the interplanetary magnetic field. And next we'll look at the relativistic electrons. The greater than 2 mega electron flux has reached its bottom, and it's still at pretty low levels, it looks like, as well as the GOES electron flux. And when the coronal hole wind stream arrives, this thing is going to crater. It'll be at incredibly low levels throughout the duration of the coronal hole wind stream. It's what I like to call sometimes proton light. Next we'll look at the ionosphere. Here's 6 hours of data from that. And it's looking pretty normal up there. Here is the latest image. Nothing to write home about there. Next we'll look at the pressure maps. And here it is on windy.com. We're going to let that advance about 24 hours into the GFS forecast. Looks like a heavy anticyclone there over southern Alaska and British Columbia, as well as over northern Greenland. Here's where we expect things to be at 1 p.m. my time tomorrow. And we've even got a cosmology segment today, folks, so don't go nowhere. And don't use double negatives. I ain't using no double negatives or any sarcasm all day today. I swear to God. Pardon the sarcasm. Largest earthquake of the past 24 was a 5.4 magnitude, I think. And let's go up the list. There's an Argentinian quake at depth. It's a 5.0 magnitude at 174 kilometers. If that happened at the surface, it would be more like a 6.0. We also see a Central American deep quake at 170 kilometers. It's a 4.6 in Honduras. There's a deep one at Alaska. It's a small magnitude, but over 100 kilometers depth. There's a 5.1 at Chile. So 2 deep quakes there in the past 24 in western South America. If you're in an earthquake-prone zone, please have a plan and be an asset, not a liability, in the event of, oh, I don't know, a pandemic or an earthquake or you know, nuclear war or whatever. Here's another deep quake at Alaska. This one's a 3.9 out in the Aleutian Islands at 112 kilometers. Next we see a 4.6 deep quake. And by the way, we only report on 6+ magnitude quakes or quakes deeper than 100 kilometers. That one's at 145.2 kilometers. Here's another deep quake in Afghanistan. We saw one yesterday, the day before yesterday, in Tajikistan. And there's a 4.5 at Afghanistan, 219 kilometers depth. Please leave a comment if you're located in Afghanistan or if you felt that quake, as we are very interested to see if people are able to view our videos from overseas. And I know we've got videos, we've got viewers from all around the world, South America, Europe, Australia, etc. Here's another deep quake at Puerto Rico. It's a 3.2 magnitude And shout out to Peter Schiff once again. Oh man, Peter Schiff is killing it right now. Next we'll look at volcanoes. Klyuchevskoye still erupting, producing a 27,000 foot ash plume, so a slight downtick from yesterday. Shiveluch, 33,000 foot plume there. Mount Aso, 5,000 foot ash plume there. Kuchinarabu-jima, flight level 3,000 there. Sakurajima, flight level 9,000 there, so uptick at Sakurajima. Mount Ibu, flight level 7,000 there. Merapi, flight level 20,000 there. That's an uptick at Merapi, I believe. Semeru, flight level 14,000. Tokono, flight level 7,000 as it explodes. Carinci, flight level 14,000 there. Popocatépetl exploding, 20,000 foot plume there. Sangay, no volcanic ash observed in satellite. Don't let that be your cue to try to pole vault the caldera. And Nevados de Chilean exploding, flight level 12,000 there. And we've moved into the cosmology segment. We're going to talk about a couple different stories here, and they are interesting. So sometimes you just can't resist, and we can't be stopped by a global pandemic. First of all, let's talk about the high C. If you're wondering what the high C is, it's the high resolution coronal imager. And it's basically a rocket that goes up and takes some very, very high resolution images. Check these out. Some very severe close-ups here. Getting filamentary strands that are about 500 kilometers. Here's a clip. There's the SDO image. See, let me back it up. There's the SDO image, and there's the high C image. So you can see extremely high res images of the magnetic flux ropes, or whatever you'd like to call them. Check out the zoom in. Good stuff from the high C. So if you want to read about that, it's on phys.org. And you can find links yourself. Just go to phys.org and go to the astronomy cosmology section. Let's talk about fundamentals of cosmology cast in doubt by compelling new study. Well, guess what, folks? Space isn't empty. The universe isn't electric. Thank goodness, because you'd be dead. And the Big Bang is being debunked on the regs. So, there's a problem with redshift, folks. People think that galaxies are moving at greater distances depending on how far away they are, an indication that all galaxies are moving, radially away from the Earth, away from the Sun, our solar system, as if the solar system is the middle of the universe. And that makes zero sense. And here's a study showing that things aren't really moving that way. So we've also got problems with the cosmic microwave background, which is largely cited as evidence for the Big Bang. And since it can't be repeated, the cosmic microwave background is complete nonsense. And it's just, it's a good thing, because galaxies are not moving the way that dark matter and dark energy and gravitational astronomy figures them to be. So perhaps read this article. It's from SciTech Daily. The title is Fundamental Principle of Cosmology Cast in Doubt by Compelling New Study. As redshift is not understood well at all. And what happened? So, space is not empty. There are magnetic fields all around in space. And since it's not empty, the Faraday effect applies. So if you haven't read about the Faraday effect before, it's all that we need to explain a lot of the behavior in space. Things like redshift that are not fully understood, where they're understood as motion. Were you aware that we can stop light completely in a laboratory? We can pause light and then unpause light by shining a laser through a medium, applying a strong magnetic field to it, turning off the laser, turning off the field, and what do you know, the laser pulse comes back through, indicating that we stopped the light entirely. So as far as speed limits to light, sorry, when you have a medium and a magnetic field, speed limits do not apply. Sorry, Einstein. Let's talk about cosmology with respect to the electric universe. People need to understand the difference between plasma cosmology, real science, and the electric universe, which is complete BS, because everything is certainly not electric. Stars are certainly not electric, and 99.9% of the matter in the universe is not plasma. Stars are made of condensed matter. If they weren't, they would not be able to simply emit the emission spectra that we see from stars. What you're seeing is UV light and X-rays and so on coming from the surface of the stars, not from the interiors of them. So if you'd like to learn more about this, please read 40 Lines of Evidence for Condensed Matter, The Sun on Trial, and again, the Sun, the Rosetta Stone of all cosmology. Liquid metallic hydrogen as a solar building block, which, by the way, if stars are made out of liquid metallic hydrogen, that makes the universe much, much more durable, much, much weirder, much, much stabler, and much more applicable to actual science. So we want to see this science here progress, as this is the Rosetta Stone for cosmology. 40 lines of proof that the sun is made of condensed matter, not a gaseous plasma. If you take an astronomy class, you'll be taught that 99.99% of the matter in the universe is plasma. And that's because when we look at stars, people assume that the entire star is made of the same material that we see on the surface. Except there are all kinds of problems with that theory. And let's move on to the COVID-19 section, where I go, oh my God! Fisher-Price, my first pandemic. Let's talk about nonsense. Words or language having no meaning or conveying no intelligible ideas. Language, conduct, or an idea that is absurd or contrary to good sense. An instance of absurd action. Things of no importance or values. Affected or impudent conduct. Genetic information consisting of one or more codons that do not code for any amino acid and usually cause termination of the molecular chain in protein synthesis. I wasn't aware of that definition, but that's pretty good. Let's go to the adjective definitions. Consisting of an arbitrary grouping of speech sounds or symbols, consisting of one or more codons that are genetic nonsense. CNN, NBC, Fox, ABC, CBS, and the rest of the mainstream media is completely shoveling a giant truckload of
nonsense
around the whole world about COVID-19. I would invite you to read the Swiss propaganda research papers about COVID-19. It's swprs.org. And you can find links to different language links there, and it's right on the homepage. Also, I would invite you to smAsho.com/forum. We've got an extensive section. It's now over 22 pages long. Yesterday we talked about giant viruses, and that was the last post. And have hope, folks. Have hope. Now, this is the most defined rainbow that I've ever seen in a photograph. And shout out to Jen Bernard Reed. We won't say where the photo came from, as the account is private. Hopefully she gave us permission. Although sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission. What happened? I lost my place, folks. I'm lost. So anyway, have hope, because this too shall pass. So have a laugh. Perhaps upload this brilliant file of David Hasselhoff. Or share this one. Fisher-Price, my first pandemic. Or what about this one? Oh, thanks for posting, be stoic. Talking about environmental racism. And he's just posting screenshots of links now. Anyway, thanks everybody who's contributing on smashomash.com/forum. There's a huge section. Now let's go to the CNBC markets page. I'm just going to scroll up here as I talk about the oddities in the market, which continue. And these are largely driven by, guess what? The Federal Reserve. Oh my gosh, they made me vanish. Just kidding, folks. I'm still here. Anyway, Jim Cramer's praising the Federal Reserve moves as more and more helicopter money gets injected into the economy. All I can say is, if you get a stimulus check, you better spend it fast, and you better spend it on something that appreciates in value, because your dollars are going down in value. If you're wondering about the other world currencies, they're going down in value more than the US dollar. So the US dollar is still weakening with respect to gold. However, it's still superior to other currencies, at least at this point, because other currencies are inflating their money even worse than the Federal Reserve is inflating ours. So I'm not going to start ranting about legal tender laws and so on. I am going to just let this scroll up a little faster, and I'm going to show you what's going on with crypto, because I haven't looked yet myself. And there are all the headlines you can read at cnbc.com/markets. As the dollar takes a little damage yesterday with respect to things like the Japanese yen, which is surprising. Asian markets are currently mixed. Euro markets are largely up, as there's some good news hitting the wire nowadays. And let's just keep scrolling here. Take a look at where gold and silver and so on are. There's the currencies, otherwise known as the COMEX. COMEX. There's the futures and commodities. Oil still at 23 bucks a barrel. Gold at 1740.60 and silver at 1591. So it's risen well above that $15 per ounce upward support level. It looks like there's a bunch of bond buying. There's absolutely no surprise there, as the Fed is injecting ridiculous amounts of money as a result of the pandemic. Some more good news here. We see companies like the Gap, United Airlines, and Kohl's going up. By the way, Diamondback, that's not the bicycle manufacturer, that's an energy company. And I just want to look at crypto real quick to see what it's been doing, as Peter Schiff was bloviating about it last night. And ouch, Bitcoin is getting hammered once again. It's not down to its lows. It was all the way down to 55,000. So there's the downward support level for Bitcoin. And let's also look at Ethereum. And I use the Coinbase Exchange because I trade on the Coinbase Exchange, although I'm not very active in crypto, nor do I believe it is a store of actual value. It is a speculative investment, just like Dutch tulips. Anyway, there's Ethereum, also on the Coinbase Exchange. One thing about these exchanges, folks, is watch the volume data, as there is no consensus on how to gather it, and it's often, let's just say it's often kind of shady. And let's move on to talk about the Federal Reserve. Have you read The Creature of Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin? Now, a lot of people think G. Edward Griffin is a kook, and I'm not sure that he's not a kook. However, this book is legit, and if you haven't read it, get it, read it, download it, understand the information. If you don't know how banking works, it's a great time for you to go, oh my God, my dollars are losing value relative to gold and silver. Holy crow! Anyway, while you're holed up at home, don't forget to spike pile drive the COVID-19 virus, as your immune system has been evolving for billions of years, or at least millions, most likely, and it's much more sophisticated than any vaccine or drug ever invented. Dear Willie Joes, we haven't forgotten about you. Dear Brett, the steak on burger is a reason to come to Allentown. Or we could maybe even produce a recipe for it, but I don't want to do that because there it is. The steak on burger, dudes. It is a cheeseburger with a cheese steak as a topping. So if you like bacon cheeseburgers, maybe you like a steak on burger. Willie Joe's. One of my favorites of all time. Shout out to Brad Frederick. Let's get a giant bag of Willie Joe's. Now, yesterday we talked about some original music that you can listen to also while you're holed up at home, when you're in a bunker or wherever you might be. Now, of course, you can probably tell that there's no rumbling sound in the background, and an indication that we're broadcasting today from Smash Tower as opposed to Smash Bunker. Anyway, check out soundclick.com/GoldenCat Productions, and thanks to everybody who's listening over there. As nice, Dr. Steelshank is at number 45 currently. So if you haven't listened to that one, maybe check that out. Also, check us out on SoundCloud. It's soundcloud.com/Daniel-Nigro-2. I know, it's a really catchy name. The links are always in the video description. And this has got some older and weirder tracks, as well as some produced by Arabian, otherwise known as Dr. Sam Afif. Shout out to Dr. Sam Afif. Let's play one of his tracks. Here's Solemn Gratitude. Golden Cat Productions only consists of two people, Dr. Afif and I. I know it sounds like a Wu-Tang track, right? Anyway, check us out there. Also, if you haven't heard the tracks over at that. Also, watch the videos from Switch to Linux. I'm actually doing an endorsement for once of another YouTube channel. And we're going to try to get Tom on here soon. It might be today, it might be tomorrow, but we're going to make an entire playlist on our YouTube channel just about computing. So we're going to start out with a very basic one, talking about the different OSs and the pros and cons to those OSs. Next, we'll look at nullschool.net. There are the jet streams of the Eastern world. There are the jet streams of the Western world. And we're getting some snow here in Pennsylvania. Here are the water vapor maps for Africa and Europe. Here are the water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. Here's a lightning map. It's lightningmaps.org. I like to use it for real-time lightning maps. And let's check and see if we have any comments. Nobody commenting. And we got a bunch of snow. Check it out, man. I'd like to go snowboarding in Maine right now. And the resorts are probably all closed. Who wants to stand in a lift line when somebody's coughing on the back of your neck? All right, so there you go. And I hope it snows on me today, as we've been having a snow shortage all year. Next, we'll look at the water vapor map of the U.S., and that Borg sphere is going across again. Dear Borg sphere, don't get shot down by Indian space missiles. And I want to look at this convergence over southern Colorado. Shout out to both Diamond of Oppenheimer Ranch Project and to Anomalous Howard. Drop me lines, dudes. Hit me up on Skype. I'm trying to make a video with both of you guys. And we're having a lot of trouble connecting with people because of my weird schedule. Yes, it's true, folks. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. At the latest. In fact, if I sleep till 3, that's considered sleeping in. And there's a big convergence happening there. And if you're flying an aircraft in this sort of a direction, expect some bumpy rides. And hey, Smash team, thanks for tuning in to the Smash stream. Even if you didn't view it live, we appreciate your patronage. And check out some bonus features. But first, let's talk about how to fund us. We're on Subscribestar. And by the way, this month, all of the posts are public. So when we put up audio, such as this...
Oh dear. Come, come. Let us not be defeated, sir. Let us seize the day and take it roughly from behind.
We're also on...
The Colonel used to say...
We're also on Patreon.
Unfortunate way.
And all of the posts are public there as well. So as a fundraising process for the month of April, I like to give. And so we're going to be giving all of our posts out for free. There'll be ringtones, music, image files, all sorts of other digital stuff coming out, as well as the most recent updates. So if something suddenly happens, like a solar flare or a coronal mass ejection, we typically cover it there before any place else, since our Patreons are actually the real source of funding for these videos. And you can see these active regions here are not showing any sunspots. I'm just showing you the intensity gram for that reason. Here are the fields in colorized magnetogram. And let's see what that rising region looks like. It's just coming into view there. It doesn't look very sunspot-like. And uh-oh, there's a straight line here. There's a straight line on the surface of the sun, folks. It's time to panic. It's time to panic. Oh noes, oh noes. It must be because CERN was turned on or something. Please leave a comment if you know nothing about the physics, but you want to conjecture about how the sunspots are caused by CERN or other stuff that you can't explain the physics of. Here's our final view of the day. It's 131 angstroms. It's a 48-hour video, and you should be able to see that solar flare, that X-ray flare, the B-class one that happened. I don't know if you can or not. It's all good, though. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you drink, don't drive. And may the solar wind be at your back, and the COVIDiots absent from existence. Sha-na-na-na.